Hey,
Hello.
Hey.
hello.
Hi there.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the WikiTree Challenge reveal featuring David Allen Lambert, Chief Genealogist of the American Ancestors, and his colleague Melanie McComb is here with us, as well
Hello.
as Greg Clark and Celia Marsh and Chris Ferriello. So just briefly what the WikiTree Challenge is. Okay, I'm just going to mute everybody real quick because I'm getting some feedback.
Mhm.
So just quickly what the WikiTree Challenge is, if you haven't heard of it, it is our biggest ongoing community event every other week. Volunteers collaborate to grow 7 degrees of connections for our special genealogy guest star. So this week, of course, we have David Allen Lambert. And just to briefly explain what a connection count is and what CC7 means. CC7 is a person's number of connections on WikiTree within 7 degrees. So connections are family relationships, which includes relationships through marriage. Degrees measures the distance of the relationships. Nuclear relatives, for example, parents, siblings, spouses, and children are 1 degree away from our guest. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, in-laws, and grandchildren are 2 degrees. So they are connected through 2 relationship steps and so on from there. So the higher your CC7 number is, the fuller the branches of your tree are. So just wanted to explain briefly about that. Let's see, we'll go ahead and share the space page from the challenge that we use as our place to coordinate for the challenge. This is where everybody shares what they've worked on and asks for help. And also, we can see where all in the world we went with the challenge.
Wow.
So on this part of the page, you can see a highlighted list of the countries. And for instance, in Canada, we went to 11 provinces north and 10 provinces and 1 territory. And England, France, Germany, Ireland, and of course we've got Chris here, so that kind of clues you in. We got some Italy in there. Lebanon, Luxembourg, Mexico, Netherlands, New Zealand, Poland, Scotland, just a lot of places. I think we had 18 countries and 36 states in the US. So that's pretty exciting.
That's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
And first off, I do want to say how honored I am to be asked back. And this is tremendous. I'm going to learn some things that I didn't know. And this is my birthday's in a couple of weeks. So thank you for the early birthday present. I don't know what the reveal is going to be, because I have not looked at my tree once since I left.
Oh.
Well, so when we started the challenge, your connection count was at 1580. And now you can see on your profile, you have your 2000 connections badge, and you're at 3,482.
Wow. The holiday card list is going to get bigger.
And here is the score sheet for any who haven't seen it yet. The list of participants, we had 36 active participants. So you can see what all was done. And you can tell by the number here, when the challenge stopped, we were at 3,338 for your CC7. You can see it continued to grow past the challenge because, well, I know for myself, I had to keep going down some of the paths. So
Thank you.
Why that's there. Yeah.
Timed it so you got the 100 points, though. That's very, very elegant.
Yes. Like my number there, Greg.
Yes, very nice.
So you'll find yourself on the list of tops of movers and shakers here on the WikiTree tops page for increase of your CC7.
Wow.
So that's kind of fun. Little
That's
news item there for you.
Great. Thank you.
And then just for fun, I've been keeping track of connections between the WikiTree Challenge guest stars. So here's Melly was our first one, Leanne, Randy, Judy, David, and Ellen's up next. So here's your connections to everybody. Looks like your closest one is to Melly.
Yeah, I think with their New England connection, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. There's just kind of a fun little thing there for you.
Great.
And then just wanted to briefly share about your one place study. I wanted to highlight it because you do have a one place study on WikiTree. And because we were working on your family and we were doing a lot of work in Massachusetts, there were quite a few profiles that have been added to the category for your study.
Oh, thank you.
You'll be able to see that in there. That's kind of fun.
We're just about to have our 300th anniversary, so that was the point of that. Trying to get volunteers to actually jump in and help me with it. Of course, I never knew the challenge would be the great way of doing it, so I'm excited. Yeah, this is great.
Yep, and I've added on to here the different cemeteries that are within, so that people know about that. And then I just added a list of some more notables to this section of the page too. And some of the notables are already on WikiTree, so it's kind of fun.
Excellent.
From any category page on WikiTree, I don't know if you've known this already, but there is the My Connections button, which you can click and you can check your connections to anybody in that category.
Oh, that's great.
So if I do that for your profile ID, which I've done here for you, of course, you have a lot of people connected to you in this category. So
wow.
So here's all your ancestors and cousins. And then the next section way down here, because you have so many of them, is your connections.
Wow.
So
it's funny. My family, my own personal family, my grandparents came to Stoughton about 20 years before I was born, approximately. So there's not a lot of like ancient ancestors. My wife, however, on her side, her family lived across the street in the 1700s. So she's gone full circle and now lives back where her family lived in the 1730s to 1760s. I always like to say I walked on the right gravestone. Now I'm haunted by the ghosts of their descendants, my children.
Wow. Yeah. And so we did, we were talking before we got started here, we did highlight a couple cemeteries in your town there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Dry Pond. And so I just made a space page for it just to kind of be able to do the highlight. And the other one, and like I was mentioning earlier, you can check your connections.
And you'll notice that Azure cited your book.
Yeah.
I did, like I said, I didn't peek, but when I saw her in because I follow WikiTree on Twitter and all of that, and I'm like, Dry Pond Cemetery, that's coincidental. And it's of course about a third of a mile from my house, and that's actually the cemetery that I used to wander around with when I was 10 years old. Most kids were out there playing in the woods. I was playing in the cemetery reading gravestones. Interesting childhood.
So, and of course, you can check your connections. I just brought that up just to show you. One of the interesting finds, not in within 7 degrees of you, but it is in your one place study. So I just wanted to share it real quick. Is this gentleman, William Henry Harrison Celia, and you are, I think, 19 degrees from him. I checked it.
Really?
And, yeah. And
wow.
he was the first foreigner to be awarded the Victoria Cross for his bravery during the campaign. So it's really an interesting story. He sailed away on his uncle's ship at 14. When they're in Hong Kong harbor, he bailed out because he wanted to go celebrate the 4th of July. His uncle wouldn't let him, so he just went ahead and went overboard, swam to shore. in order to leave the port, he couldn't get back on his uncle's ship, so he ended up joining the Royal Navy. Really, really interesting story. So just something to kind of look at there. But he's linked back into your one place study.
Well, I know right where he's buried. I'll have to go pay respects to my cousin now. That's excellent.
So the other interesting find I just wanted to share was really interesting. This is the gentleman that got us down into Mexico. And he was there he was traveling there with his fiance, and he actually died at the Civil Registry Office in Guadalajara. So I don't know if he was going there to get married, but
interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting to read the report on his death. You know, the U.S. reports of deaths of American citizens abroad that they do. So that's one way to guarantee that your death record is recorded if you die in the Civil Registration Office, I suppose. Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. It's really very interesting. So this gentleman, I forgot to write down how far away he is from me. Let me do that real quick. Yeah, 7 degrees. Wow. So there's the connection path. So anyway, those are the couple of things I wanted to highlight. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Greg. If you're
okay. Then let me get my screen all ready to share, and we'll start with this screen right here. Okay. So where we are here. So as you was talking about the CC7, the close connections within 7 degrees. And there's an app that some guy made on WikiTree.
I've heard of them.
And so it's called the 6 Degrees app because when I first created it, I just went 6 degrees out. So every bubble on this app represents a person. And your face should be in the middle, but because the app is on a because you're a living person, your face will not show up because of privacy reasons for the app.
That's perfectly fine. If I see my face, I know that I have to worry.
Yeah, if he sees his face, he might think it's like a target, like a bullseye target.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but I mean, I can put
You can do that. Yep.
Yeah, when I said when you use the app, you can see the face, but when it saves it to PDF, for some reason, the link to the PDF doesn't work for privacy. Anyways,
Melanie and I share an office in Boston. If I ever see a dartboard come up with my face on this, I'll know where the idea came from.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a dartboard. She's celebrating your heritage.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. The celebration.
So suspicious.
Yeah. So the app is called 6 Degrees, but like literally 2 weeks after I made the app and posted it on G2G, then all of a sudden CC7 was this thing that was announced in the newsletter, and everyone was talking about CC7, so I had to make it do 7 degrees. Anyways, this is what it was before, so that's about 1,500 people represented there, and this is what it looks like now with there's 30. Wow. This now has 3,408 connections. So the missing, you're over 3,500, but about 100 of those must be private, and so that's why they wouldn't load up in the app, because the apps are on a different server than the live WikiTree server. So there's so they're limited to because of public privacy issuys. So, but you can still see it's pretty amazing.
That's tremendous.
And so you can, yeah. So I printed this one with the legend, so you could actually see the breakdown. And so once you get up to degree 4, you have 173 profiles at that distance, and then it just goes exponential from there. 408 at degree 5, almost double that. 957 at degree 6, and again almost double. 1,792 at degree 7. So it's just wild.
It is completely wild. That's amazing. Yeah. Bravo on the app, by the way. That's
thank you.
It's a nice tech.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things I like to do, and there'll be a few other apps we'll show you. But the other thing, so one of the things I wanted to show you was some maps, because I love maps. I'm pretty sure you're a map fan yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is a map of your ancestors. Let's see. Let's start with the world there. And these come from, there's actually, again, it's another app that's on WikiTree. It was created by Alesh, who's our the real technical guru, runs the servers and stuff on the tech team. And he's put together something called WikiTree Plus. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's the
I have.
Yeah. You've worked with that before. So that also generates these maps. And so this is a map of your ancestors, and it's color coded by the century. You see the legend down here in the left corner here. And you can see the I think for this one, I plotted the birth dots, and then you can see the migration arrows. So you can see lots happening in the blue and the gold, which would be the 18th and 19th centuries. But there are some pink ones. So your ancestors that came over in the 17th century, you can see some movement there.
Sure.
And just to get a little bit closer, I zoomed in on just North America on your East Coast there. So it looks like there was a bunch that does it make sense that some would have arrived in Georgia and then moved north?
Well, that's new news to me, but I'm always open to, I know I have one family, Peter Luigi, that was from around Virginia, because in the 1600s, he sent word down to Virginia where his first wife and child may have been, because he was seeking to get married in Haverhill. No, Peter Patty. I'm sorry, Peter Patty. And yeah, there was this whole article. So I have a Virginia connection, but I didn't know about Georgia. But that's great.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I've taken, these are PDFs of the map, so they're not live. But if we had the live map open, we could actually click on the map and on the dot, and it would pull up the profile.
I can't wait to explore it more. This is great.
Yeah. So,
Greg, did you want to
really
show?
Cool.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what's really cool is, I mean, you've got the whole East Coast covered, even up into Canada, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, lots in Prince Edward Island, and some in Newfoundland. And there were some, I don't think they were direct ancestors, but there was some branches of profiles that I was looking at that came from Saint-Pierre-Miquelon.
My grandfather was born there, actually. So my grandfather was born there, and his father was from Nova Scotia. And his great-grandfather was actually born in Ireland. So my paternal line. So we were in Saint-Pierre-Miquelon from about 1879 to 1900. So
cool.
I'm French for one generation.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I was telling Azure earlier in the week, I did a 4-week immersion course in between grade 12 and 13 in Saint-Pierre, and lived there in Ireland. Love the place. Have you visited yourself?
I have, yeah. It's the interesting thing about Saint-Pierre-Miquelon. So my great-grandfather went up there as a merchant because of transatlantic cable, and there were Canadians that didn't speak English, and he's, of course, from Nova Scotia. Then when I went up and talked with the archivist, he goes, "You might have trouble leaving," and he showed me the front page newspaper. Apparently, my great-grandfather was planted by the Canadian government as a spy. And was there for years reporting on when the French were fishing in Canadian waters. He had 24 hours to leave Saint-Pierre. And if you've been to Saint-Pierre, you know that they have a guillotine, and they don't treat the spies with their own heads. So the next paper talked about Monsieur Lambert rowing out to a boat. He ended up going to Port-aux-Basques, Newfoundland, and then ultimately to Sydney, Cape Breton, where he ended up dying, and had a furniture store at the end of his life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So that's neat. There's some other maps here as well that were created. We took each of your great grandparents and made a migration map of those, and so there's a whole pile of them. So I don't even know where we want to start. Let's start with Lambert first. And so there's blue and red dots and then the migration arrows. It looks like a mess right now, but basically on the Lambert side there, again, the huge concentration, of course, over the eastern seaboard, but obviously moving over to the west of the continent, and then lots from Europe there. So I did zoom in.
Well, and as where the other map was showing the ancestors, this is CC7 of this ancestor. So within 7 degrees of this ancestor, this is the, yeah.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can think about it having a list of names and things like that and seeing it on a tree, but to actually see the geographical distribution is tremendous.
Yeah. So there's even like there's some outliers. There's someone from Jamaica here. I actually clicked on that dot to see if it was an actual profile and not just a profile that had the wrong place name or a questionable place name. But that was there's actually someone from Jamaica. I didn't write down the name of who it was. Someone from tip of South America there, Cartagena.
Wow.
Greg, was the New Zealand one on this one, or is that on another one?
That's on another one, yes, because that took me down a bit of a rabbit hole too. And I'll talk about that one too. And here's the Lambert from England there. So huge concentration around Manchester, and then looks like some from Wales as well. But also, most of your maps have a few some people from Germany, and there's some Nordic connections too. Often.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So because many of them are similar, like there's the Gale one.
They're all going to overlap for a couple degrees.
They're all going to overlap. So I'm trying to think of which ones were unique. This one was a little more spread out. Like there's a huge chunk around Manchester, but
is that my Lee chart? Is that from my grandfather's?
This is a Gale. This is from the Gale family as well. Yeah. But we can look at the Lee. Where's the Lee? Yeah, down here. So the world version of the Lee is here, and there's more in Europe here, down into Italy. So that would have been the line you worked on, right, Chris? Some of it, I suspect.
You got some people dying in Hawaii there.
Oh yeah,
interesting.
Okay.
Well, look at that.
Nice place to go. Yeah, I don't want to know if I'd want to die there, but it is on my bucket list. I might think twice about it now.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's the Europe. Oh, I guess I didn't extend it down to Italy to grab that, but I think I did this one.
Yeah. So that grandfather was born in England in the Midlands in Cheshire. So that would explain for some of the concentration. It's a big Midland surname in general too.
Right. Yeah, and again, some more connections around Newfoundland, and so they're all pretty similar. There's the Clark. Now look at
wow,
the Clarks were very popular. Now
you had
my Clarks came from Ireland, so I don't think we're related. But look at that.
Yeah, it's my maternal grandmother's surname from New Brunswick into Nova Scotia. And then over in England, in theory.
That weird dot in the middle of the ocean is anybody who died at sea.
Right.
So most of them, it looks like they might, when I was looking at them, they looked like they were all from New Brunswick. So maybe they were fishermen, but
there's a lot of Newfoundlanders that
actually die right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when the location in the death location that says at sea, it's like it has to pick a place. So
that's one watery grave.
It's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So all of these maps are actually in a Google folder that Azure is going to give you access to. So you can at your leisure you can go through each of them and as well.
You. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate
this.
This is wonderful.
It is, yeah, it's pretty neat. So when it comes to the interesting finds, I wonder if I'll just talk about the New Zealand find. So when we finished wrapping up last week, and we were online, Azure, Melanie, and Celia, we're just talking about different things we found, and a few other people were. And we looked at the map, and I guess it wasn't this one. Where is the map? Maybe it was that one. Yeah, there was a map here, and there was a lone dot over in New Zealand, and I thought, how did that happen? Like, there's every one of the, like, all the rest of your relatives are all clustered together, like, you know, they traveled in packs. Over New Zealand.
I still travel in packs. That's why I have an SUV.
So investigated, and that was for Elizabeth Jane Molyneux, who was born in Prince Edward Island.
Oh.
So
Can you upsize the screen? Sorry, Greg.
yes, I can.
Zoom
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you're wondering the connection, she is your, let me see. I'm going to reverse the view here. This is the connection between you. There you go. So she is your great aunt's, or no, your great aunt's husband's great aunt. Yes, that's right. Your great aunt, Allen Lambert, and her husband Rex, his great aunt was Elizabeth. So that's
Oh, okay.
So not a blood relative, but
No,
again,
but
by
fascinating.
fascinating. Yeah, that's right.
Why was she out there? Any idea? Was she just immigrated with her family, or?
So she herself lived in. She was born in Prince Edward Island. Her father would have been French originally, married Sarah Moore. So presumably, probably grew up speaking English on Prince Edward Island at the time. Her husband was the one that got them over to New Zealand. So her husband, Gershom Curtis, was born in Surrey in England in 1821. He was the youngest in his family. Now he only has one brother. There's only one profile for one of his brothers is here, but he has an older sister and I think two other brothers. So we need to add those profiles at some point. But his parents and the whole family moved when he was just an infant. They arrived in Prince Edward Island, in a place that eventually became known as Curtisdale, and his father, William Curtis, created a mill, or had a mill and a grist mill. So in actually, one of let's see, this one. Open that up. No, that's not the one. There is. Oh, here it is. Probably. There's a picture. Now, this may not be the original, original mill, but it was in the same location as the original one that William Curtis built in the 1820s.
Wow.
So this is one of the sites that I found that had some details about Curtisdale, which is now called Milton in Prince Edward Island. So that's where he grew up. And then he married in 1947. He married Elizabeth Jane Molyneux in Prince Edward Island. And then a few years later, in 1853, his father passed away. And the will is actually on another family homepage. Oh, actually, let's clear this one here. The whole will is actually transcribed right here. And on it, for his sons Theophilus and Gershom. Now, do you have other? Have you have other Theophiluses in your family? Because that's not a name you see very often.
No, that's not a name I've seen.
I've got some Theophiluses. Theophilus Redfield.
Do you? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard of the name Theophilus, but I've never run across it before.
Halig. That's the one I find really weird.
Yeah.
Apparently, that didn't get to be a wedding gift when his family married my great aunt.
So Gershom, Theophilus, and Rachel, those three siblings, were bequeathed the mill and some of the land around it, and then the direction was that there was to be sold, and then the proceeds divided between the three of them, which is what happened. And then he took those proceeds and bought shares in a boat, the Lady Grey. Oh. And so he he and his wife, along with 2 other people from Prince Edward Island and their family, sailed away in November of, where is it here? November 26, 1854, for New Zealand. It took them 242 days to get there.
Gosh.
And there's actually a whole, this is the site here. There's a whole article about the journey, the voyage of the Lady Grey, and it goes in quite detail about it. So they had some 3 days out. They hit a storm, and so there was a lot of bad luck in it. At one point, none of the sailors could do the work, so the owners, Gershom and the other 2 owners, had to pitch in, and they had to do the sailor duties and figure out what they were doing. So,
wow.
Anyway, so they landed eventually in New Zealand. What was the name of the town? Nelson, I believe it is called. And that's where they spent the rest of their life. And he lived a life. He was, and then there's some interesting sites that talk more of the details, and they actually talk about some of the records that are available, which I just didn't get around to connecting to WikiTree. So on the profile, I left 2 links for 2 of the if you want to read more about this guy.
I'm intrigued. Yes, I've always thought New Zealand was a cool place. I never knew I had an indirect connection to it. That's great.
And there's a little 2-line notice in the paper about his death in 1901. Mr. Curtis Sr., aged 83, passed away at Westport Wednesday morning. He'd only been confined to his bed for a few days. Deceased was a very old colonist.
See, if they had a time machine, they could have gone forward and gotten so much more on WikiTree to add to.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but one of the pages, one of these ones actually has a eulogy that was. I don't know if it was read or if it was printed later on, and talked about him. So by someone who actually knew him personally. So that's kind of interesting. So from looking at a map and seeing a random dot. Down this way.
And that dot turned out to be a rabbit hole.
A rabbit hole, yes. What a shocker, eh? But in terms of categories, Azure is very good because when we were doing this rabbit hole, she recognized the name Lady Grey. She says, I think there's a category for that, and sure enough, there is. So there are some profiles. So the Brent family and the who was it? And the Locke family. Those are the other 2 men who were partners in the ship, and so they brought their whole family with them. And George Hooper was a single young man who was also on the ship.
So there's probably a lot of descendants of those families still in New Zealand today, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That's
so you could. I don't think I'm clicking the My Connections button. I'm not related to any of them. I've got connections to them. Oh, I'm 18 degrees away from Gershom now. Look at that. After all that work, that's good.
that is good. I dropped the link for Melanie's interesting find in the private chat there for you, Greg.
Oh, okay. So do you want me to just keep on sharing? Okay. Will do.
And I'm not going to take full credit for this because Liza actually came across Martin, but this is a new ancestor.
A new ancestor? Wow.
Yes. So at least as far as your ancestry tree, he is the father of Catherine Lyons, who married Alexander Taylor. I believe Martin is 5th great grandfather. If you want to check me, Greg. On the connection.
Let's.
Relationship to me, and then just put in his ID.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a really interesting person, and Liza had started putting a lot of the sources in, and then I started going through some more sources myself. So he actually is an early Irish settler in New Brunswick in the township of Bardabog. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It looks like he probably married twice. There's a little bit of an issue because both of his wives were both named Helen, but we're finding evidence of 2 marriages. and he actually is from County Waterford, Ireland. So now you have a
Really?
Irish
You know
ancestor.
where he's from in Ireland. That's even more of a plus.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Wow.
there's a little bit of lore about him that
Oh,
obviously about how he actually got here. So according to the article in a newsletter that was produced by I think a genealogical society out there,
sure.
it had said that supposedly he was a sailor on a British merchant marine vessel, and the story is that he jumped ship in Halifax, arrived in Miramichi in 1762, and then traveled a good part of the journey by himself in a dugout canoe.
Wow.
I
Wow.
like it. Now,
And
because this. No,
oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mel, please.
and one more thing I was going to add, though, it says that 6 of his grandchildren had died in the Miramichi fire of
Oh, wow.
1825, and they were the
No.
children of John Lyons and Suzanne Savoy. So that might be an interesting rabbit hole to go down, but because you go through his daughter Catherine, and we know
Okay.
that Martin is her father because the marriage record was actually found that actually named her as the daughter of Martin.
Melanie, can you review only because the screen is so small for me to see?
Oh.
Sure.
Which is okay because I'm going to watch the review of it anyways when on YouTube. Can you go from my great grandparent back to this new relative? Just kind of a review.
Actually, you know what? Why don't I
There you
do
go. There you
this?
go. Yeah, fifth great grandfather. Yeah.
Okay. So my dad.
Yep.
Yep. And then it has to probably go through my dad's mother,
Yeah, Margaret.
Margaret.
Thomas.
Margaret Clark
Yeah, to Thomas. Okay.
The Mary Tower.
to Tower.
Oh yeah, yeah. The one that lived till 1950 and was 95, and there's no photograph of her.
No photo?
No, it's a long story. A lot of things.
Oh
were thrown out.
no.
Yeah,
Oh.
she lived that long and no photograph of her. And let's
Then
Mary
Sarah Jane
Tower.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Then from Sarah Jane Taylor, and then Catherine Lyons to Martin Lyons.
See, Sarah Jane Taylor was a brick wall for me right there because I wasn't sure exactly who her parents were before. So, wow, thank you. Because on my other side, my great grandfather Thomas William Clark marries a Bessie Jane Taylor, and that goes to George Taylor, who was an immigrant from England. And so I always, thought there was some sort of a close connection there, but that obviously changes the direction a bit. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, Melanie, and all else involved.
That's great.
Yeah, Liza was a big help on that one. And so the profile has some different details on Martin, added some info about, besides his marriages, some land. He was a farmer out there, and we know that he had obtained land early on from the Lieutenant Governor, Thomas Carleton.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'm familiar with that.
So he was an early colonist in that area.
So he's from Miramichi up in New Brunswick then.
No,
Mhm.
Martin's from Ireland.
But I mean, he settled in Miramichi.
He settled in there. Yes.
Okay.
He settled in there. And I think his second wife, he had to get a dispensation of the second degree, as they were, it looks like they thought that Helena Taylor might be the first cousin of the late wife, but she was some close affinity.
Hey, I'm more Irish than I was an hour ago, so that's excellent. Well, I mean, I always was that Irish. I just never knew. That's great. Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, and we didn't add the first wife because there was some issues about finding out more about Helen Henderson, but that was the one that was named as the mother of Catherine in her marriage record. But there wasn't an official marriage record found between Martin and Helen Henderson, but Martin did sell land to a John Henderson, who I think is a close relative.
Isn't that 3 wives then?
I think there was an issue with there's Helen Henderson, there's Helen Taylor, and it seemed like that unless there's another Helen Taylor, I wonder if there was a reason why he got a dispensation later, or I think what happened is when he got into that marriage contract in 1790, I think they didn't marry. Which that's what I wonder, because they got into a contract saying they were going to marry, but then we didn't find a marriage record for them until 1801.
Ooh.
So I wondered if possibly he married Helen Henderson about 1778. They were supposed to marry earlier. Something happened, probably because of the dispensation or something, and then later married in 1801. So,
Wow.
but who knows? There could be another wife in there in the mix.
No, the knowledge that he came from Waterford, Melanie, is that from a Crown land grant or something? Or
No,
gravestone?
that was from the newsletter about that was studying people in the area of Bardavog celebrating their 225th anniversary.
Wow.
So it very likely is probably coming from some local history and maybe in some of the historical societies down there. So
Oh, New Brunswick, here I come again. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the newsletter. Thank you, Greg, for bringing that up.
No
So
problem.
yeah, that's where the first part on the last column on the first page talks about him. So
That's excellent. I think that's the first
There
ancestor
it
I
is.
had with Martin as a first name. That's,
yeah,
Martin.
so definitely something to explore. There was a lot of children, obviously we haven't fully added yet. So and it did look like that he had a son Martin, so it looked like it was being passed down. So.
Were they Roman Catholic? Because I know the family was Wesleyan Methodist. For the most part.
I think when Catherine married, I think they married through. Let me see. Let me check the marriage record because they were in the drawn collection, but they also have nonconformists too.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Catholic.
They are. Wow.
Or at
Interesting.
the very least, the daughter is. At least the daughter we can say is Catholic. So I mean, it's possible that
Yeah.
it's early Catholics too.
Wow.
The dispensation bit makes it sound like they would be Catholic.
Oh yeah. That makes total sense. And he was buried in a Catholic cemetery, so I don't think that it was a matter of just the wife was Catholic. It looks like.
Does he have a surviving gravestone?
Let me see.
Because you know I like cemeteries.
Yes,
That's right.
yes. There actually is a gravestone. If you want to click on it, Greg, there is a stone, and you can actually
Okay.
see it. You might want to see that one. Go to
There you
find a
are.
grave. That's
Oh
his
my.
gravestone.
Look at that.
So-
There you go.
He's real.
Wow.
Wow. You know, in the
Yeah.
Lion's name, it's funny. One of my dearest friends, his last name was Lyons, and I always call him a brother from another mother. But his are from an early New England Lions family. But that's excellent. Well, I can't wait to tell Fred Lyons that we're distant cousins. He just doesn't realize it yet. That's great. Wow. That stone needs some D2.
Yeah, but not bad for an 1823 gravestone. It still looks
201 years old? Yeah, that's great.
It looks in pretty good shape. It's upright. It's not cracked really, so it's just
I
needs a
hope-
little love.
I'm hoping that I'm in that good a shape at 201 years old. That's great.
Well, when 900 years old you become, look as good you will not.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Okay, so
I can
what
give you
up?
I can give you another one, Greg, if you want.
Okay, go right ahead. Yeah. Give me another one.
Sure. Let's go to Joshua Clark. Go to Clark with an E
Okay.
dash 18913.
Okay. Clark.
That's
with
a
an
name.
E.
That's a name I'm familiar with. I'm getting worried.
What, 18193, did you say?
It's all
Yeah,
good news, buddy.
yeah.
Don't worry about it.
yeah, 18913. That's the one that married Rebecca Mills.
Yeah. Okay. the Mills is-
18913. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a little reverse.
Switch
There we go.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Millses
Joshua
are my
Clark.
loyalists. Are my loyalist family. They came up from New York.
Yes.
Okay. So we had him from the last challenge, and Greg had asked me about the Clarks, about the potential brothers of John and Jonah.
Mhm.
So I did look into your DNA matches since you gave me access, and you do have a DNA match of some of the other brothers there. So I think you
Oh.
have a DNA match with John.
Okay.
You actually have a direct descendant of John in common with Joshua, and very likely there's probably a connection with Jonah as well, because I noticed that Jonah married a Lumley,
hmm
and John's daughter Marianne also married a Lumley.
Yeah, it's a name up there. I've seen in.
So it seems like there's probably some and there was too many coincidences with marriage witnesses back and forth, because
Mhm.
Jonah Clark was a marriage witness to John, and on Jonah's marriage record, which I added, that was actually John. So they did it both
Mhm.
for each other. So I think there's
Yeah.
definitely a connection there. Now, there was something interesting if you go into William, the father, up above.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, and there's speculation online that I saw, but we found the marriage record, and I think we found it last time, but we maybe didn't call it out. But William Clark married Mary Soules.
Souls or Sands, and then that's the name.
Exactly, yeah. There's speculation that Soules and Sands are the same name,
Mhm.
but wanted just to point that out because you are getting DNA matches through that line,
Through the
especially
through the Sands' line, Melanie? Or
through the Soules.
Souls, okay.
So if you go into Mary Soules,
Okay.
the wife there, if you see how there's a sister Amy.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, that's new.
So I think you had her in your tree, but you actually have a DNA match with someone that's a descendant of Amy as well.
Interesting.
And the transcribed Southampton record, which is on the profile, does say for both of them Soules. So like I said, it's possible the name could have been changed at some point, but
Mhm.
for that point it's pretty consistent. So there's a Stephen Soules, and we're not sure if that Stephen Soules is the one that goes back to Massachusetts, but that line could go further back potentially.
So are you telling me with Souls that could be Soul and I possibly have a Mayflower line?
Possibly.
You know, it's interesting because they
It
listed
needs to be investigated, but I think it's a possibility to look into.
Yeah, because they said Sands, and Stephen Sands was supposedly there's a Sands fortune that my family's involved in. You see it in the newspaper columns that say that the Sands fortune, you know, it was basically a money scheme in
Yeah.
the 1800s.
And I think I think there's another Sands connection somewhere else. It's possible that you go through. I'm not sure if Rachel is a Sands, so there could be a different connection.
Oh, interesting.
So I would probably look more into that couple. And it notes them that they were of the River St. John.
So Stephen, yeah, and you know the funny thing about the Cumberland connection. So my grandfather Lambert was married Margaret Jane Clark. Margaret's grandfather Joshua Clark is from Cumberland County, River Hebert, and McCann, Minudee rather. My grandfather Lambert, his great grandfather was from Cumberland County, and I don't think either my grandmother or my grandfather would have known this. And they're from like they were within like a town of each other, but no crossover at all that I can see on the lines.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So you think the Soules family, the Stephen Soules, is from Massachusetts, Melanie?
it might be. There's people that are trying to put them together. That a Stephen in Massachusetts had a son Stephen that may have come out to Nova Scotia. So you'd have to explore that further.
Okay. Probably a planter, I would think.
Yeah, but if nothing else, it's another surname I would maybe try to focus on more directly than maybe the Sands, because I don't think we have a direct connection on the Sands quite yet. So
I like it. I love it.
But at least I could say that we have a connection through Mary's sister Amy, and that's showing up in your through lines as well.
That's great. Oh, DNA doesn't lie, that's for sure.
Yeah, so some of it, like I said, some of it's partially new, but some of it I think gives you another angle to go on. So,
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you for the early birthday present.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
The best is yet to come, David.
Hey, I like multiple presents, so I'm not going to complain. So this is great.
Yes.
Did you have another one to share as well, Melanie, or is that?
I think that was pretty much it. I kind of worked on a few random lines, mostly just adding profiles and stuff, but those were really, I thought, the two bigger ones I wanted to call out. So.
Sure.
Wow.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Well, Chris, do you want to talk about the Dustins now?
Yeah. Yes. Let's talk about. Hey, David.
So
how do you like
now, do you want me to share? What should I pull up for you, Chris?
Pull up Josephina Papa.
Josephina Papa. Okay.
Yes.
Is that a Dustin connection?
That's not Dutch, obviously. It's Italiano.
Oh, you're gonna start with the Italian side. Okay.
Do you have the WikiTree ID, Chris, that you can give Greg so he can pull it up?
Papa 185.
A POPPA?
PAPA 185.
Oh, Papa. 185.
PAPA.
PAPA.
Oh, I put 2 P's in there. 2 P's in a pod. Josephina
There
Papa.
we go. Okay. the Italy project was called in to look up the profile for Giuseppina Papa, who was, of course, one of your brick walls you wanted us to break down, correct?
Well, that,
Oh.
that
No,
Well-
this is no, Chris. These were so at the
Oh.
beginning of the challenge or midway through the challenge, Eowyn finds
yeah,
opportunities
right,
for
right.
people to earn bounty points, and so she's picked out some profiles for us to grow out. And so it wasn't one from David; it was just one that was an opportunity for the participants to
Wow.
earn bounty points.
That's true. Okay, sorry. I was trying to
no,
make
it's
it,
okay.
I make it dramatic.
I'd love to have an Italian connection. That would have been
Yeah,
a
that's
real
great.
surprise. Yeah,
Well, you do
Yeah,
have.
I mean-
I do.
So it's,
I worked hard on this.
your sister's mother-in-law, or
Yeah.
your aunt's mother-in-law.
Yeah, I worked hard on this tree and her husband's tree.
Mm.
I've been trying to pronounce the guy's last name for like the last few weeks. It's Romano.
Geronimo?
Geronimo, yeah.
Yeah, it's my Aunt Betty's, my Uncle Joe. Yeah,
Yeah.
Geronimo. They're from Brockton, Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it right. So Mary.
Yeah, no, trust me, I had a tough time. I used to call them the Geronimo family when I was a kid.
Geronimo, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you could have asked Mary. You could have asked Mary. She could have helped you. She would have killed me for butchering it, but that's another story.
Mm.
Anyway.
Yeah, there was speculation in the chat how to pronounce that name a few times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were like going on
Geronimo,
and
yeah.
on.
Geronimo.
We were going on and on trying to pronounce the last name, but I was digging to the tree and I was like, why don't I see if there's anything on Ancestry about her? I did that. I found this tree that had a ton of links to Antonati, which is, of course, the Italian government's database for all the births, marriages, and deaths from 1809 to
So if
like
you
early
click the
1900s.
ancestors,
Yeah.
Greg,
What's that?
click the ancestors button.
Oh,
for
yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Or actually for the son, Joseph, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There we go.
kind of cool.
Look at this.
Wow.
I built it
Explode
out. Yeah. I was
My
actually
Uncle Joe would have loved that. He always told me he was going to take me to Italy so I could help him trace his family tree. Never did, though. But, I mean, wow.
I did it on both sides.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just like I checked Antonati to make sure the guy's tree was accurate because ancestry trees, you gotta be careful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very careful. So I was just cross checking, making sure the guy who posted it knew what he was talking about. And I found out I managed to push it back. But here's the interesting thing. Usually most Italian trees cut off at like 1809.
Mhm.
And this guy managed to find on Antonati marriages which had like the parents. You can do like a guesstimate of the parents' ages because they'll have like if you look at the marriage of Giuseppe Sabino, and
Okay.
Antonia Recci,
Okay.
if you look at that marriage document right there. Okay, let it load. Please let Antonati live it. Come on.
Come on. There we go.
So,
Let the technology work.
Come
zoom in on
on.
the marriage so I know what I'm talking about here. Thanks, Greg.
Wow. That's early.
Yeah.
Is the left or the right one?
I think it was the left one. I don't know. Let me look real quick. Hold on. All right, we're looking at the marriage of Giuseppe and Antonia. That would be on the.
I got
that would be
Carso
on-
Joe. Oh, there it is. Right, it's here. Yeah, there. Because there's Giuseppe. Right there. He goes.
Yeah, there we
So
go.
can you see
So-
my cursor?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
see my cursor
Yep.
Yeah.
flying around? Yeah, that's Giuseppe there. Look,
Yeah, we see it, and you can
And-
see.
you can get the animo of Geronimo. Eyes lost in the margin.
There you go.
Animo.
Darn gutters.
Yeah, that's right. Those guys.
That's awful. That's really awful.
Filia
Anyway,
Maggiore.
you can see the
That's great.
parents. You can see the parents, and you can see like the ages, sort of. You can kind of like do like
Yes,
a estimate of
Savino.
the ages and make like an educated guess. And just
Well,
add them
Anni
in.
Cinquante. Yeah.
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 But make sure you use like the Antonati cider on that profile too. Just kind of like, oh, that's where you find the name. That's good.
Mhm.
Wow.
And like one of the most interesting finds I found on that was from you got Greg, can you look up Michelle Leone 993 LEONE 993 on WikiTree, please.
Okay. There we go. Michele.
Okay, Michelle.
Michele Leone.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, he's better with Italian names than I am. That's
My
scary.
in-laws are all Italian, first generation. So
Yeah. Anyway, he had a daughter who was named after his first wife, actually, Flavia,
yeah.
Mhm.
and you can actually see it on her birth certificate, I believe. And
Her birth
I thought that was
certificate?
pretty interesting because you don't really see that often in Italy. I've noticed it's just really weird. You can see her birth certificate on the left there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Loading,
just kind of
loading.
zoom in. And yeah, I thought
Flavia,
that was
there
really
it is.
interesting. I thought that was really interesting because, like, yeah, really interesting. But the really hard part was just kind of like reading some of the documents a little
Mhm.
bit. I had to have like some people, okay, make sure this is really accurate, really correct, because sometimes my eyes just like can't really read Italian that well. And that was actually Greg actually helped me originally with the reading of the Italian documents, and
Mhm.
the student was trying to become the master, but it's a little hard. I didn't actually do need new classes, but we
There it
needed,
is, Flavia.
we got all that stuff out, got Flavia,
Mhm.
and
All right.
that's just how it went for most of my time with your ancestors. Well, not your ancestors,
Well, no, that's all right. Uncle Joe was like a very, very close uncle. And I know I can share it with his family. So
Mhm.
that's great.
yeah. So you can tell everybody that someone on the internet found your whole tree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you know what? If my Uncle Joe was alive, he probably would have taken you to Italy because of it.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
That's
awesome.
excellent.
Do we want to go over the Dustins?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
let's switch gears to the Dustins.
Because that's not all I did.
Oh, I feel there's an Emerson connection coming in here again.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
does
Because like,
there's a very close geographical connection, right?
Yeah. You know how 2019 I helped find your connection to Hannah Dustin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like thinking to myself, I wonder if because I live in Salem, New Hampshire, as you know.
Sure.
And the Dustins were a big deal in my town. So I was like, I wonder if he's connected to Thomas Dustin, my former neighbor, who used to watch my brother and I tromp through his fields, going to neighbors' houses and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to watch us a lot. So I was like, what if there's a connection here? So I built a tree down from Hannah Dustin through Haverhill, through Salem, and I got to Thomas Eliot Dustin. And along the way, I found several people who served in the American Revolution, who you can look at.
Okay.
Including one of his ancestors, David Dustin, who is Dustin number 20. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he should be
And
on that.
It looks like you have listed on the interesting find that your David's third cousin, 6 times removed, Obadiah, served in the Revolutionary War along with his brother David.
Yes.
So that's all.
Mhm.
That's really very cool.
That is very cool. As a state historian for the Massachusetts SAR, any new Revolutionary War connections, even slightly remote, is very interesting for me because I look at the companies they're in.
Of course, I have to.
Yeah, so if you go to the space page for the challenge, there's actually a whole section on military profiles that you can look at.
Oh, wow.
We can just give you kind of a peek at that. People, the participants added to the list of military profiles.
Yeah, and the And the Dustin served in like almost every single American war except the Civil War, which I found was really odd. That they were in the Revolutionary War, World War One, World War Two. Where's Civil War? I thought
It's on
that
the
was
space page of the challenge. Great.
Okay, so that is. I need to find that one. Is that this one? There it is. Right.
scroll all the way down to
Or is
the,
there we
Yep,
are.
there you go.
Military
there,
profiles.
right there. David Dustin and Obadiah Dustin. And Obadiah,
then There's the 1812 war, the
yeah.
Civil War. There's quite a few military profiles listed
Wow.
here, so it's kind of
That's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
World
Chris.
War One. Look at
Patty
that.
found like a zillion, which is a very low.
and one of
percent.
them that Patty Luker, the plant that's on the scoreboard, is the MVP for the challenge. She just wanted to share that one of the military profiles is for an Admiral James Albert Alger, who was a twin, and he served in both World War I and World War II, and he's 7 degrees from you.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's excellent.
Yes, of course, I had to edit some of the Dustin profile because it said the farmhouse was still standing. I was like, it was not.
Yeah.
It's nice when you can make those type of corrections, Chris.
That's right.
I had to go to
Alright.
Google Maps and get a picture of it and kind of put it up on there. Yeah, about that. I was like bringing my no, it's not. I was like, because I lived down the street from the old farmhouse where it used to be. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was like there one morning, and the next day, gone. Just like scooped it up, took it away. There's
Oh,
now
wow.
a house being built down there, and yeah, it was just like
And then a couple of the other, I'm sorry, Chris, I just wanted to cover these other interesting finds that were shared by some of the other participants before we have to wrap up. But one of them is 6 degrees from you, David. Thomas Andrew Leach, previously unconnected notable baseball player.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tommy Leach of the New York Giants, who I have his autograph and his baseball card. He was, I think, it was the same. See, I do baseball Hall of Fame research for Cooperstown, and I know
Is that him?
exactly who Tommy Leach is. I bet it is. What's his dates?
1877 to 1969.
That's him.
cool.
Chautauqua. Born in
Yep.
French Creek, Chautauqua.
Yep. That's exactly who Tommy Leach. That's a riot.
You're
Wow.
connected.
So you're 7 degrees from him.
That's great. Wow.
And it sounds like your tree helped connect him to other
Yep.
people.
You need to get
That's
some of the
cool.
Red Sox connected to you, though. Just saying.
There you go.
Wow.
Get
So
some,
there
yeah,
you
you're
go.
excellent.
Only one change there for
Yeah.
from
that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tommy Leach. That's hilarious. Melanie, I'll have to send you a copy of his baseball card later. I've got it probably about 12 feet away from me in a binder.
Yeah, it sounds like you're related through what, his wife? Is his wife a Gale?
Yeah.
Is that what I saw?
The wife is a direct connection.
So
Yeah.
you should find out if he had any children, because then you go through the wife's line, you have direct ancestors.
Oh, I'm gonna fall down rabbit holes, and Melanie knows how many things that we actually have to accomplish for work this week. I hope my boss isn't tuning in. I'll be
Well, it
like,
looks
I'll be
like-
good. I'll wait till this weekend.
You need us
If
to
I'm-
write
if I'm
you a
reading
note.
Reading this right.
A note to
His-
actually do. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say, his wife is your grandmother's first cousin.
Were there any kids listed? I guess they wouldn't have been if he was unconnected.
That's amazing.
It's a possibility, though. There's someone. in the family.
So his wife was my grandmother's first cousin. What was her name?
Her name
birth
was Marie Gale. Well, let's just click on her.
Yeah, there is one child listed.
Oh.
in the profile.
Relationship to not me. Me. We put in David. First cousin, that makes you first cousins twice removed, right? It's your grandmother's first cousin, that makes you first cousins twice
Wow,
removed.
Yeah,
This
that would make
is his wife.
interesting. Wow.
And so his
you-
kids would be second cousins.
Jeez.
I don't know. I get lost in those things.
Yeah. His kids would be second cousins once removed, and his grandchildren would be third cousins.
Jeez. Tommy Leach.
You could have been a
mean,
family
you
reunions
can-
together.
You're gonna
You know,
need to know. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back to the Field of Dreams and toss the ball into the cornfield and hope he tosses it back so we can chat.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Oh, that's great. That is very cool. Wow. I don't generally have autographs of my distant cousins, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
Azure,
is-
do you want to mention Lucinda Gale? That's another relative.
Oh, yes. The other interesting find was Lucinda Gale. Bob Land, one of the participants, found some newspaper articles. When she was 49 or so, she was picking blueberries and fell down a ravine.
Yeah,
But she
this
couldn't
is-
move to get out of her predicament, spent the night on the side of a cliff. And by the time the morning came around, she was able to get her climb back up.
Yeah, this is Patty Gale and Patty Gale's daughter, and Lydia Ingalls. That's amazing. And that, of course, has my Laura Ingalls Wilder connection to that side of the family.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Was that a new story to you?
Yeah.
Do you know, I think I stumbled, you know what, Melanie? I think I stumbled upon it one point in time when I was up in Bristol, New Hampshire, but I don't have the article. Now I do.
Yeah,
Now you
Mhm.
do.
Now you
Yeah,
do.
that will just prove when I'm in New Hampshire not to go looking for blueberries, or I'm going to end up on the front page.
Wow.
Right.
Oh, you can. But it's just occurred to you.
He survived. She survived. You'll be
That's
fine.
good. Yep,
Yeah, that is true. It could have been ended up a lot worse.
that's true.
But you know, it occurred to me when we heard about the news article or whatever. It's just like, couldn't she have just eaten the blueberries and not have?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's assuming she found some. Maybe she couldn't find any.
Could have been worse. You could have met a bear also. Looking
I
for
know. I was
blueberries.
thinking that myself.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There.
I will not retrace her steps for a for a
No.
TikTok video.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Did you want to show that on that one
The
view?
super
I
tree
forgot
or
about
the-
that.
Maybe on top. Yeah.
Yeah, the on
Well, what I can do is, because I know we're going over a little bit. Oh, there you did share my screen. So there's a few apps, of course, available on WikiTree, and when you go to
Just a
anyone's
few.
profile, and I've written a few of them myself. When you're on anyone's profile, here, let me find someone's profile. I could go to your profile,
Okay.
and you click on the Tree Apps link, then it opens up the apps, and so there's a number to choose from, and so
Wow.
I've got a few of them preloaded for you. But there's a fan chart, which is a nice, easy place to sort of do a jumping off point, and you can see you've got a nice solid 5 generations there, and then we've got a few holes there at the 6th generation. But if you had looked at your fan chart before we started, then you would have discovered the new ancestor that Melanie found for you. But luckily you didn't peek.
I did not peek. It's a total surprise.
Yeah. One of the ones I've just recently added is what I call the super tree. And what it does, so I preloaded this because with so many relatives that you have, there's a lot of ones here. And basically, let's see if I can zoom in. Where are you? You're way down here, because this is showing 7 generations of ancestors. Here, let me move that up a bit. Okay, look at all these Lamberts. There we are. There you are.
There I am.
There you are. So there you are. So 7 generations. So it's going up 7 generations. Now that we know.
Wow. I'm doing a mural in my dining room next. That's
yeah.
amazing.
You could.
Right next to
Yeah.
the
What it's
board.
done is each of the if I close up the cousins, you can. What it's done is it just taken each of your ancestors, added their siblings, and then their descendants, and then I stopped at the 3rd cousin level. But basically.
That's amazing.
It's a
You can
full
dial it all in, and it's really
it's
great.
a full meal.
Wow.
And the ones that have the circles about them, those are ones that appear more than once in your family tree, your extended family tree.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it
Clo-
could be
Pedigree collapse. That's all it is.
Yeah.
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 I'm going to
Yeah.
get a shirt that says, I am a victim of pedigree collapse. Welcome to
Yeah, that's great. There we go.
I
So
have one
that's
too.
that's one of the apps that's you can play around with, and you can customize it with the views. And then I don't have a print to PDF, but if you just do Control P, then it'll load up and will go to a printer, or you can convert it to PDF. You can save it
that's
as PDF.
Save it as a PDF.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Yeah. So.
Wonderful. That's
And then
amazing.
send it to Staples or Kinko's or something to get it professionally printed on really large.
Huge.
And then that's when you roll it out at the family reunion on the picnic table in the
Exactly.
family runs for the hills.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I'm sure as an avid genealogist, I'm sure you love the Onentafel numbering system.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. So there's a couple apps that you can use to explore that. And I don't know why. So this one here that I have loaded is the Onentafel ancestor list. And you can collapse them or explore.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's kind of neat. And then there's another one called the CC7, which, as you might expect, loads not only your ancestors, but all the people that connected. So basically everyone that we discovered for you here in this would load up in that app, which seems to have crashed on me. But
there's a lot of names.
Yeah, there's a lot of names. I'll just leave that as a teaser for you to explore on your own.
not to open till my birthday.
Yeah.
And if you need help reading the Italian documents that I linked on our profiles, just let me know, and I'll
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. This has been absolutely tremendous. It's heartwarming. And for someone who's been doing genealogy since he was 7 years old and never feels that he's done it all. And when people say your genealogy is done, what they need to do is get the WikiTree challenge and prove that they haven't done as much as they thought they did. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot.
Oh, we had so much fun. Thank you for allowing us to do it for you. We just, everybody had a blast. The Discord channel where we do a lot of our coordination and collaboration was just really hopping pretty much the whole week. So it was really great.
Right. It wasn't all just work, because we were having a good time. And I was actually trying to help everybody try to pronounce towns in Massachusetts to like Haverford Hill. I'm like, no, Haverhill. Stop. No. Stoughton.
Yeah. Melanie was telling me they were having some trouble with Stoughton. That's a tough one. I always have to spell it. Yeah. Tufton, they call us Tough Town occasionally. Drop the S. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so very, very much. And this is great.
Yeah, and we'll be I'll send you an email with the link to the images so you have that. And just go ahead and check out the score sheet and the space page and click around in there and have fun. If you have any questions, of course, reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, to everyone who helped out, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sure you're going to be exploring WikiTree for a while now.
It's not like I don't already.
All night research party.
As I was saying earlier, before we went on air, before I had the first challenge, I used it sparingly, but now it's part of my toolkit. I'm always using it for consultations because it gives leads and it gives connections. And even a consult I did today, it actually disproved something. I had a theory that was wrong and somebody else completely agreed, and they have the proofs right there. I didn't have to go digging that deeply. So yes, WikiTree is amazing. Great.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you around the tree.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.